call upon all stakeholders in their various roles to commit to peaceful 2025-2026 general elections. ACTV and the Coalition Against Torture in Uganda, together with other state and non-state actors, shall conduct key interventions which we believe will have a major contribution towards torture and violence prevention during the 2025-2026 general elections. Ahead of 9th February 2026, we will conduct the following 5 interventions. 1. Conduct awareness sensitizations on torture and human rights for various security agencies before the elections. 2. Conduct awareness and dialogue engagements on peaceful elections with various community members. 3. Conduct advocacy engagement meetings with political parties and relevant ministries, departments, and agencies of state. 4. Document reported torture allegations before, during, and after elections to enable survivors seek justice. 5. ACTV will continue to provide treatment and rehabilitation for survivors of torture and violence resulting from the elections. 6. Conduct mental health awareness sessions in relationship to elections in communities in order to enable prevention of mental health illnesses and improve help-seeking behavior. We further call upon other institutions and actors to take the following 6 actions. 1. All political actors and the public foster political dialogue and tolerance, exercise restraint than engaging in acts of violence and extremism. 2. The Electoral Commission should take lead in prevention of election-related violence and torture by developing a framework on prevention of torture and violence during elections in Uganda. This will contribute to transparency and respect for human rights and the rule of law in the electoral process. 3. Security agencies should adhere to constitutional and international human rights standards during the entire election period. In addition, the errant officers that perpetrate violence should be punished to end the cycle of impunity. 4. The Uganda Human Rights Commission should extensively conduct civic awareness on the rights and duties of every citizen in the elections. 5. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions should conduct capacity building for state prosecutors on prosecution of torture-related cases and integrate a trauma-informed approach in investigating and prosecuting torture-related complaints or cases. 6. Journalists and the media to be impartial to all and expose all acts of human rights violations and abuses investigated for relevant institutions, to account and embrace the trauma-informed approach in investigation and telling stories of torture victims and survivors. And last but not least, 7, the general public to always use legal means to advocate for their rights and respect each other in order to avoid political violence. For treatment and rehabilitation of torture victims, ACTV, together with the Coalition Against Torture, has convened this press conference to address the media, journalists, and general public on elections in Uganda ahead of the 2026 general elections. We highlight and recognize the importance of torture and violence-free elections and what we, ACTV and the Coalition Against Torture, intend to do in contribution to have a peaceful 2026 general elections. We recognize that Uganda has strong laws regarding elections that include the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, the Electoral Commission Act, Cap 140, the Electoral Commission Amendment Act 2010, the Presidential Elections Act 2005, the Presidential Elections Amendment Act 2010, the Political Parties and Organizations Act 2010, among others. Uganda is a democracy with a multi-party system that holds general elections after 5 years. Over years, Uganda's election processes have evolved, aiming at increasing public participation and transparency. However, there still remains a challenge of election violence and torture during and after elections. At ACTV, Through our centers, we observe an increasing trend in the number of cases of torture registered in each election year since 2006. An example is that in 2015, we registered 1,277 cases. That is a year before the 2016 elections, where we registered 1,346 cases. And in 2020, registered 960 cases. And the year after, in 2021, which was an election year, we registered 1,151 cases. On 5th August 2024, the Electoral Commission issued a roadmap for the 2025-2026 general elections. And as elections draw nearer, a deep concern remains with the trend of election-related violence, brutality, and torture incidents and allegations, as were observed in the just concluded Kawempe by-elections on 13th March 2020.
Whatever we are doing here is advocacy, and advocacy may not reveal the results right now, but in the near future or in the future, someone will hear the voice that we are raising today. As we look forward and put emphasis on 2026 general elections, it's not the only issue. There are so many issues that we are tackling, but within the theme of the road towards 2026. Now, we have the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act, and we have the regulations. We also have the Constitution of Uganda. Someone has said that some people seem to be above the law. Our point is that in Uganda, no one is above the law. So, the Constitution is the supreme law, and under Article 24, no one is supposed to be tortured in any way. Under Article 44, torture is the freedom from torture is a non-derogable right. That means
one of the most important things that we have to do as the citizens of the country is raise the civic competence of our population. That's why the CEO talks much about sensitization. Now you have to make people understand what are the negative implications of violence. For example, we have, according to the concluded housing census, 62.8% of households in Uganda are engaged in the agricultural sector. Now you have to translate that into the effects, the negative effects. If there erupts violence, what will happen? You have seen how food is used as a means of war. You have seen Ukraine and Russia, where wheat and other kinds of food have been used as a weapon of war. Meaning that if there is any insecurity and violence, because violence perpetuates violence, it starts small, but it ends up engulfing a bigger population. Something that starts small increases within time.